Welcome to Otago Summer, one of the most beautiful parts of New Zealand at one of the most beautiful times of the year. In this episode, we cycle along some of the most pristine lakes and rivers in the region before celebrating the Christmas-New Year period in Queenstown. We take a journey into Gold Rush history and get our adrenaline pumping in Cardrona.
And head out on a road trip to Dunedin, visiting the best bird sanctuary in the region, spotting rare and endangered native birds.
We undertake a kayaking adventure on Lake Wakatipu to a remote island where we learn a Maori legend about the lake.
Our final adventure takes us on a cycling trip through the Gibbston Valley, sampling some local wine and coming away far less than unscathed. We finish up in the resort town of Wanaka, a lesser-known gem of the Southern Lakes District. Join us for this and more with Global Travel Stories.
All right, here on the southern end of Lake Hawea with Frankie G over here. Beautiful day, first day of summer. Couldn't have asked for better weather right now. It's about 17 degrees Celsius, which is kind of perfect for a cycling trip. We're going to cycle along the southern end of Lake Hawea down to the Hawea River. We'll follow that down to Albert Town just outside of Wanaka where it meets up with the Clutha-Mata'o River. Let's do it.
In order to undertake this journey, we had to leave a vehicle at each end of the trail, allowing us to cycle in one direction without returning. Weather-wise, we seriously could not have asked for a better day in this idyllic location.
So we've got a sign here behind us that pretty much pointing out what they're doing with all these little plots of plants that are being stored in this area here. And this is basically like a restoration zone for native plant species. Currently, New Zealand is undertaking a massive rewilding project where they're planning to plant 1 trillion trees, most of which are native, by the end of the decade, 2030. So it's good to see some of that around here. So we're standing on what is known as a terminal moraine, and that was formed when a glacial mass came down from the Southern Alps, just in the backdrop there, about 18,000 years ago. Now, it formed the depression that we now know as Lake Hawea, and all the rubble and sediment that has been pushed down by that glacial mass has formed this embankment that we're currently standing on. So that was the last advance 18,000 years ago, and that was the glacier that formed Hawea, and there's also a similar glacier that forms down at Lake Wanaka. Honestly, this has to be one of the most beautiful places on earth, and it's pretty much untouched. There's a guy down the back there swimming, and the temperature of the water is at 10 degrees Celsius or about 50 Fahrenheit, so icy cold, still glacial and snow melt fed from the Southern Alps down there. Okay, so we've just done our first 9 kilometers from Gladstone along the Gladstone track, and now we're at the end of Lake Hawea, so we're about to do the Hawea River Trail all the way down to Albertown.
Along the Hawea River, something unique takes place in the summertime, something you would not expect hours away from the ocean. River surfing. Basically UN tree form. It's known as the Lombardy poplar. So up there we have Mount Aspiring, or Tititia, 3,033 meters high. Alrighty, Frankie, we've made it.
We have.
We've followed the Hawea River from Lake Hawea, and now we're at the confluence of the Hawea River and the Clutha-Matao River, which is the second longest river in New Zealand and the fastest flowing. This is where Francesco and I went kayaking last summer, which is awesome. Got these little black ducks here. They're making some great sounds. I believe they're called a scaup, so they're like a little black ducky with a bright yellow eye. They're making some great little sounds. This is awesome. Great way to finish. You enjoy the day, Francesco?
Yeah, it was awesome. Not too hard. Great, awesome views. So yeah, recommended.
Returning back home to Queenstown, we reward our efforts with cocktails and cards, meeting with Miranda at Yonder. Let's go. Sinchan.
So, whenever you're making a salad and you're going to measure the amount of quantity of oil you have in the salad, the best procedure I use is use your palms. You actually measure a tableful in that little palm that you got, and then when you put the oil in, you can just spread your fingers out and it'll just drizzle all over it naturally. Also works best if you don't have a dishwasher in your house, because less dishes to do, really.
Cool. And he has cleaned those hands.
Yes, I have. And just let it glide down all the way.
Yeah.
And then you got the residual oil in your hands. The best thing to do is get amongst it. You know?
There you go.
Just give it a little toss. A nice gentle toss. Make sure you're not crushing all those cheese cubes.
See what's going on in there.
And, you know, nice clean hands in there. Naturally, you know. And boom.
Excellent. Now, this is not a fetish, is it?
December brought us fantastic weather in the region. The perfect time for barbecues and our annual Christmas tradition, where we gather our international expat friends, or Queenstown orphans as we call ourselves, for an afternoon feast where everyone brings a traditional Christmas dish from their home country.
The ultimate test, right?
Done. It's perfect.
It's for the tiramisu. Alright, so this is the honey maple apple cider glaze with chipotle ham. Oh my god. Alrighty guys, Merry Christmas. Cutting up the Christmas ham. I'll show you some of the other things we've got to eat very shortly. Alright Frankie, why don't you introduce exactly what you got there? The traditional Ligurian focaccia.
That was the plan.
Okay.
Thicker than normal, as you can see.
The thicker the better, he says.
That's what people like now. Yeah, so it's quite simple, quite easy. Flour, bit of salt and sugar, yeast.
A lot of yeast.
Yeah, and a bit of water. And then you have to work it. Then you spread it with olive oil. And then you wait that it grows. 12 hours in total, probably. And then put it in the oven.
Nice. Excellent.
Some decoration on top if you want.
Alright, so what have we got here, Vitus? You're going to explain some of the Lithuanian traditions.
So for Christmas, in our tradition, we have, I already forgot.
It's like preserved.
Preserve the herring.
Yep.
But so this is like just the most simple way. Just preserve the herring with the liquid and some onions. Back at home, usually you make it like different styles. Sometimes like even with beetroot, like different ways. Then we have our white salad, which is originated, I think, in Ukraine. Fully adapted to our culture. It's like one of the main salads of our culture.
Cool. And what is it? So it's mainly potato and
Yeah, it's
capers.
like eggs, potatoes, carrots, mixed up with tomatoes, peas, yeah.
Okay. Oh, they're peas. I thought they were capers. Peas. Alright, cool.
They're pretty cool. And then we got our stuffed eggs, which is sardines, eggs yolk, and mayo.
Cool.
Usually add some herbs as well. Also like a really traditional Christmas dish.
Cool. Have a very Baltic Christmas. Oh, we didn't mention this one.
No.
What's this one? This is the bread.
Yes, Agnes, it's yours.
The name of this thing is kuchukai in Lithuanian
Okay.
language. We're usually making this for Christmas Eve mostly. It's from flour, yeast, sugar.
Poppy seeds.
It's kind of like a small sweetbread sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
that
that
is
is
like-
oil.
You know, when you start putting up your first decorations for Christmas, that's when you start seeing these in shops, and it's like just like for the whole like December, it's like a Christmas period like snack, and then like on Christmas Eve we have this poppy seed milk, which is like you eat these in milk.
Ah, okay. So it's kind of like the Lithuanian version of gingerbread men, right?
Something like that.
The
probably.
equivalent. Alrighty. So Miranda's going to start off. What have you produced, Miranda?
Sweet potato mash,
Also known as
kumara mash.
Kumara.
That's got butter, milk, sage, garlic.
Ooh, sounds delish. And this one here was by Chef Kenneth Winter.
We have an Italian here, so I thought I'd remind him of her.
It's not an Italian.
It's pasta and it's cheesy.
It's cheese.
I wanted some good carbs to soak up the Christmas Day alcohol.
Exactly.
I've got mozzarella, I've got tasty cheese, I've got a lot of pasta and some breadcrumbs on top.
Look at that.
It's been very stressful to make, but I hope everybody enjoys.
So it's a British twist on a traditional Italian dish. It's the macaroni and cheese, and of course we have the piece de la resistance. This is the ham. Look at that. That ham is glazed in maple, honey, chipotle, and what else did I use? Apple cider. A little bit of garlic too. Enjoy, guys. Merry Christmas, everyone. Merry Christmas. All right. I just felt like I needed to document the first taste of the ham, so. Oh, that glaze. Has anyone tried the ham yet?
Yes, it's amazing.
The glaze is good. Hey, Merry Christmas! Hey guys, this is what we do on our days off here in Queenstown. So looking forward to having you guys here. A highlight for us every year are the Queenstown Lakefront New Year's Eve fireworks. Each year we attend and it never seems to disappoint. It's a time of the year where we look back and reflect upon all the amazing adventures we have had around the globe, and look forward to all the amazing adventures to come. Coming from over half a year in the future, I can already say that 2023 is potentially our most epic year yet. Can't wait to show you guys what we got up to. Summer for us is a time to catch up with friends and really enjoy the outdoors. With an average temperature of 20 to 25 degrees Celsius, or roughly 70 Fahrenheit, a Queenstown summer seems to be the perfect climate for most activities.
Okay, we're here down on the Shotover River, myself and Chicky behind me here. Shotover River is famous for the Shotover jet boat that takes place just down here behind us. We're actually walking to a little place called the Oxenbridge Tunnel right now, which was an old tunnel used to divert the Shotover River back in the early 1900s, just after the gold rush of the late 1800s, and that was used to source alluvial gold.
One of the top adventure activities in Queenstown is the Shotover jet boat, which can operate in less than 15 centimeters of water. We hope to showcase this activity in a future episode.
The Shotover River comes from an area known as Skipper's Canyon, which we have explored in much more detail within previous episodes. The mouth of the canyon is the farthest point of our trail today.
So during the gold rush period, which started in the area here in 1862, the Shotover River here was known to be the most profitable river in the whole region. And this is where a lot of the alluvial gold came from, which originated from the mountains and was washed down through the river. So the whole idea of the Oxenbridge Tunnel was to actually divert the water. And by diverting the water, they were able to get a big chunk of the Shotover River, or one of the hard bends, to be exposed, and they could actually dig around and look for alluvial gold. So the idea was to divert the water. Oxenbridge is the surname or family name of two brothers, Ned and Bert, who actually created this project, and this was back in the early 1900s, so actually after the gold rush itself. So we're here at the Cardrona ski resort. So this is where in the wintertime you'll have your snow sports, but here in the summertime it's downhill mountain biking and go-karting. So we're doing the go-karting today, and I'm hoping that next time we come here we can do some downhill mountain biking as well. Be pretty cool. Alrighty, so we've just got our carts about to get going. Starting off with the easiest one first, which is called Skyline. Then we'll do McDougall's, and then finally we'll finish up with Real Journeys, which is the longest one. Let's do it. so that was Skyline. What did you think, Francesco?
Jumps, all the dust in the face.
A couple of little mistakes. First of all, I forgot to wear my gloves, so my hands were freezing and the vibrations are pretty intense. And then the second thing is I let Francesco in front. When that happened, I started eating his dust. I had to let him pretty far in front, but no, it was pretty cool. So that was the easiest one. We're going to try McDougall's now, and we'll finish up with the best one, and we might have time to do a couple of seconds. We'll see. So McDougall's, Francesco, what do you think?
Even better.
Yeah. We're finally learning how to do the drifting properly. You basically use your body weight and the left and right brakes, and that gets the drifting going. Good vibrations, definitely. Can feel all up my back and my butt just itchy as hell.
Oh, once it was almost out, yeah.
Yeah, I almost fell off at one stage as well, and when that happened, I almost put my foot down, then I remembered, no, don't put the foot down. So one thing you learn is to keep your feet up against it and push really hard. So the big one that we're about to do is Real Journeys, so let's check that out. So that was Real Journeys. That was the biggest one. What do you think?
Yeah, it was definitely fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, quite demanding as well.
Oh, the hands at the end, like holding the brakes like this the whole time. Yeah, just, oh. And I was literally eating Francesco's dust in that one there. But we haven't had rain up here in quite some time, so I assume that's why the track is so dusty. There's not many people up here. Yes. So we've just come out of school holidays, which means we can finally just enjoy it. We've got a little bit of time left, so we're just going to explore a bit more of the trails and perfect it.
From Cardrona, we make our way over the famous Crown Range, crossing the highest sealed pass in the country. This takes us back to Queenstown along a scenic and hair-raising drive.
Alright, this is the famous short rib burger here at Smith's Craft Beer House. It was the Burger of the Year winner for 2017 and 2018 here in Queenstown. Brenda's got the famous jackfruit burger. And what'd you get there?
Chicken.
The chicken. Alright. Enjoy, guys. This burger literally just melts in your mouth. It's absolutely amazing. So good. Francesco, he's loving it.
Queenstown in the summer has great bars, restaurants, and all-round good vibes.
So this is the hungriest man on the planet. What have you got there, Francesco?
6 tacos, 2 chicken, 2 fish, 1 steak, 1 falafel.
Where are we, Miranda? Whakatipu Brewery. Cheers, thank you.
Fluffy bumblebees were introduced to New Zealand from England in 1885 to specifically assist with the pollination of red clover. They now assist with pollinating native flowers and plants, along with introduced species such as lavender.
At the end of January, Miranda and I undertook a road trip to the capital of the Otago province, Dunedin. Before arriving into the city centre, we stopped to check out the region's largest bird sanctuary at Orokonui, where we could get up close to rare and endangered bird species in an open and free environment.
So we've arrived at the Orokonui Eco Sanctuary, which is home to a lot of rare and endangered birds, and this whole sanctuary is an enclosure, so it's got an 8.7 kilometer fence around the whole area, and it really allows the birds to thrive, and we're hoping to see a lot of them today.
Here we go, we've got some now.
Our first encounter was with the endemic honeyeater known as the tui. Although common throughout New Zealand, these birds are in much higher abundance in protected areas.
Do you know what these ones are, Miranda?
Cabbage trees.
Cabbage tree. Do you know the other name? The Maori name?
No.
It's known as tea. I can tell you what the Maori used to do with tea. They had a lot of uses, but one of the things I found most interesting is they used to take the heart of the cabbage tree and they're able to boil it down to a sticky type of resin, and then from there use it as chewing gum. Keep their teeth nice and strong. So this plant right here to my left hand side, Whakatipu, also known as the pepper plant, has a very spicy sort of peppery taste, and it was used by the Maori for a lot of things. If you eat enough of this stuff, it'll actually make your mouth go a little bit numb. So if you had a toothache or you needed to remove a tooth, you could chew enough of this and it'd be kind of like a local anesthetic. The other thing they could do as well is they could use it to prepare a lot of their meat, bird meat basically. They're able to prepare and wrap up in the Whakatipu leaves, put it in an underground fire pit known as the hangi, and that would steam out the flavours. So essentially what you'd be getting is kind of like a spicy chicken. It's actually quite nice. Literally had to duck for this guy right up here in the trees. I don't know if you can see him in the camera, but I'll definitely film some shots of him. Big giant kaka, which is an arboreal forest parrot. Much like our well-known species, the kia, which is the alpine parrot, they're a really large species of parrot. They're actually quite rare and endangered, and they have these beautiful colours as well. You know, the red underneath, grey on top, with some yellow spots. So go check them out. So you got that really big beak too, and that beak is a curved hook beak used to scrape out the bark and get to the insects underneath the bark.
New Zealand kaka are considered vulnerable, having greatly declined across their traditional range as a result of habitat loss, predation by introduced predators such as cats, rats, possums, and stoats, and competition from wasps and bees for the honeydews excreted by scale insects. A closely related species, the Norfolk kaka, became extinct in 1851 for similar reasons.
Fluttering around, we run into the korimako, or the New Zealand bellbird, along with a curious South Island robin looking for insects.
Above in the trees, we observed the large wood pigeon known as the Keridu. Below the giant rimu trees, we spot the ultra-rare black pea waka waka, or fantail, hovering around us, jumping from branch to branch, squeaking loudly at us.
So that was pretty cool down there on the bellbird track. We saw the black piwakawaka, or the black fantail, and they make up apparently only 5% of fantails, so they are actually quite rare. The main reason why we need places like this, ecosystems that are completely fenced off from the outside world, is because of introduced predators. Up until human arrival here, first with the Maori between 800 and 1,000 years ago, and later on with the Europeans only since the late 1700s, we've had a whole abundance of introduced mammals that have come here and essentially outcompeted or preyed upon our native bird species. So here in New Zealand, we only actually have 2 native land-based mammals, and both are tiny flying bats the size of your thumb, known as the peka in Maori, or the short-tail and long-tail bat in English. So they didn't really have an impact on this landscape. But with the predators introduced here, our birds found new competition that they never had to compete with in their evolutionary past. So our birds here have adapted to only know the predators that soared above, like the eagles and hawks. And they've known that those eagles and hawks use their sense of sight. So whenever feeling threatened, they'd stay perfectly still. Now, when things like rats, stoats, and Australian bush possums were introduced, they essentially used their sense of smell as mammalian predators to source out these birds. And the birds themselves would freeze perfectly still, not knowing exactly what was about to happen. Unfortunately, these predators made off with a lot of our species. We've lost about 70% of our abundance of bird species here in New Zealand and 50% of our actual species themselves since European arrival. What we've actually had to do in recent years is put a lot of our rare and endangered bird species on an offshore island, only to ensure that their survival is there until we rid ourselves of these mammalian predators. So that's the goal of Predator Free 2050. And although it does cost us billions of dollars in conservation, it is totally worth it. Some people might argue otherwise, but we have an endemic ecosystem here in New Zealand that exists nowhere else on the earth. So if we lose that ecosystem, or if we lose the species that are endemic to this country, not only do we lose New Zealand's biodiversity, but we lose part of the world's biodiversity.
So the tuatara, which we've seen in this enclosure here, is actually quite a fascinating reptile. So it's not a lizard, but it's also not a dinosaur. It's like a close relative to lizards and snakes. Basically, they're part of a group of reptiles that were from 230 million years ago, and 100 million years ago, they've disappeared around the globe.
The tuatara was once widespread throughout New Zealand, and then with the introduction of mammalian predators and the clearance of natural habitat when the Europeans arrived, it was pushed off to outshore islands where it ensured the survival of the species just on small little islands. It has been reintroduced here into New Zealand, and we actually have the first free-roaming population of tuatara on the South Island here at Orokonui. So we are trying to reintroduce them back here into the mainland of New Zealand. An interesting thing about them as well is they actually have what is known as a blind third eye. So it sits on the top of their head, and it's used to detect light and shadow. So if a predator, for example, is flying overhead, then they can actually sense that and hide away from the hawks or eagles or whatever birds are flying overhead.
After leaving the sanctuary, we arrive into Dunedin in time for a fresh beer and delicious late lunch at the Emerson's Brewery, before heading to the nearby Forsyth Bar Stadium to see the Red Hot Chili Peppers, supported by Post Malone. Although predominantly a rugby and sports stadium, Forsyth Bar is also the largest concert venue in the region, attracting popular international acts. 3 years prior, we journeyed out here to watch Elton John perform at this same location.
On our return journey home, we stop in at a well-known local favorite for some fresh fruit ice cream.
What you got there, Chicky?
Mixed berry real fruit ice cream.
We're at the Jones Family Fruit Stall here in Cromwell. How is it? It's the goods? Alrighty, so we're here down on Lake Whakatipu and we are about to go across to Pigeon Island. So we've got out there Vitus, we've got Agner and Francesco out there, and Miranda and I are going to be in this. We've only brought one paddle today, so it looks like I'm doing most of the paddling, I think. But yeah, Lake Whakatipu is the true Maori name of the lake. The common name over here is Wakatipu, which is an English mispronunciation of the Maori name, which means a large expanding bay. That's what Whakatipu means. It's actually the third largest lake here in New Zealand. Sits at about 380 meters deep, and it is the longest lake in the country at 80 kilometers long. So we're down at the head of the lake near the entrance down towards the Southern Alps here, right near the town of Glenorchy. Let's do it, Chicky, you ready?
Let's do it.
Hey, hey!
Beautiful day for it. I'm the cameraman today. I'm a woman. Sorry.
So this is a pretty cool cabin. We came here about 3 years ago in the summer and stayed here overnight, and it was one of the coolest overnight trips. Definitely planning to do it again maybe next summer. We were hoping to do it this summer, but not really enough time. Just too many things to do in this town. This is a new addition. They got lights here as well now. Not that I want to keep them on for too long. They got charging ports over there. It's crazy.
The islands on Lake Whakatipu are a reserve for the flightless native buff waka, which on the mainland is vulnerable to predation by invasive mammals. We re-enter our kayaks to visit the adjacent Pig Island for some excellent views of Pigeon Island and the Southern Alps in its backdrop.
So this is Pig Island, guys. What do you think? It is piggy. So important thing is to take your snacks with you, because these little guys here have been known to take a snack or two.
That's right, we know from experience.
We're out in the Abel Tasman. These guys took my backcountry kit. You better not poke a hole in my kayak while I'm gone.
Returning back to Pigeon Island, we hike to the top of the island for the ultimate view of the surrounding area and tell some local Maori legends.
So we're up here on Pigeon Island in the middle of Lake Whakatipu. As I mentioned before, this is the third largest lake in New Zealand, and it was a lake used commonly by the Maori people in the summertime. They'd come through here on their summer migrations when they were searching for the precious greenstone pounamu. They'd come down through a valley called the Greenstone Valley down that way there. When they'd arrive here to the lake, they'd have a small settlement not too far from where Queenstown is located called Tahuna. And in Tahuna was a rangatira, a chief. The rangatira had a very beautiful daughter. Her name was Manata, and for the sake of this story, we'll call her the princess. Now, Manata fell in love with a commoner in the village. His name was Matakolri, and this did not bode well as per Maori traditions. You see, in Maori tradition, the daughter of the chief, she's supposed to be with the bravest warrior, a man with a lot of mana or prowess. And the chief found out that she was with Matakori and decided to forbid the two from seeing each other. So after they were separated, Manata was heartbroken by this separation, and one night she escaped from her family's whare, from their cottage. Now she goes to visit her love Matakori, and along the way she is kidnapped in the cover of darkness by a giant spiritual creature called Mato. Mato the giant was feared throughout the village, not only for being giant and ferocious, but also for his desire for beautiful young women. The following morning, the rangatira, the chief, he wakes up and he notices that his daughter is missing. He goes to consult Matakori, and when he arrives at Matakori's whare, he notices that his daughter is not there. He immediately fears the worst. The giant, Mato, has kidnapped his daughter. So he summons a meeting in the village, calls upon all the warriors, and says, any man that brings back my daughter alive will have her hand in marriage. Now half the warriors, they go up to the lair of Mato and they never return. The other half of the warriors, we could call them the smarter half, they decide to stay behind, and they agree with the rangatira, with the chief, that if they stay behind, they'll protect the village. Now the chief agrees with this because he understands that the people of the village need protecting, so reluctantly, he agrees. Now, Matakori, he was not a warrior, but nor was he a coward, and he was quite cunning. He'd already been following the footsteps of Mato and found out that the giant had a weakness. Every time a northwestern wind blew, a warm northwest wind blew, the giant Mato would fall into a deep slumber. Now, one day a really strong northwestern wind blows, and he knows it's his opportunity to rescue the princess. He goes up to the lair of Mato and finds Mato fast asleep at the footstep of the lair, and he tiptoes past the giant. In the back of the lair, he finds his beloved, Manata, bound up with ropes made of harakeke, or flax. He pulls out his toki, his flat-topped adze or axe, and he starts to hack away at those flax ropes, but they won't split. He tries to pull them apart with his hands, and they won't pull apart. They both realize at this point that the ropes have been bound using magic. Now Manata looks at Matakori with hopelessness in her eyes and tells him to leave, for if the giant wakes up, he'll completely destroy Matakori. But Matakori, he says to Manata, Manata, my love, if you were to stay here, then I am to stay here fighting and dying in your honor. Now she's so touched by that sentiment that a single tear rolls down her cheek. That tear, it actually lands on the ropes itself, and the ropes dissolve. You see, the only cure to the magic, the only way to break the curse of the magic, is true love. And there was so much true love in that single tear that the ropes instantly dissolve. Now Matakori and Manata, they run back towards the village, but along the way, Matakori stops. He says that he has to return, for if he doesn't return and defeat the giant will come back to the village and enact his revenge. So he makes his way back up towards the lair, but this time he feels that northwest wind dying down. He has to think quickly. He has to think of a plan. So he grabs as much dry tussock grass as he can along the way. When he does that, he gets up to the lair, but this time he sees Mato, the giant, tossing and turning, coming out of his slumber. Acting quickly, he stuffs that dry tussock grass beneath the giant and sets it on fire. Chants a karakia, a prayer to bind the fire to the giant. As you can imagine, the giant wakes up instantly in a burning rage, comes down to the valley below and starts to toss and turn and roll around trying to extinguish the flame. But the flame won't extinguish. It means the karakia, the prayer, it worked. The flames are now bound to the giant, so all the giant can do at this point is curl up into a fetal position and sulk. As he does so, the flames burn a deep trench below him, carving out the lake bed here, and his tears, they fill up in the trench below, forming Lake Whakatipu. Now, the reason why the Maori would tell these stories is because they didn't have a written language. This was the only way they could communicate to the next generation that was to come here nomadically in the summertime, the layout of the landscape, how to negotiate their way around the lake, because it somewhat looked like a giant. The head where we are right now, that would be Glenorchy. Down towards Queenstown, that would be the knee of the giant, and Kingston at the far end of the lake would be the foot of the giant. Now, it was said that the giant still lived beneath the lake and that his heart still beat. And that was used to describe the tidal seashores that we have here in the lake that move back and forth up and down the lake due to the different pressure systems in the lake. And the Maori could use those to negotiate their way up and down the lake in their walkers and their canoes. That heart itself was represented by 3 islands. Tree Island, Pig Island, and Pigeon Island, where we are right now. That is the legend of Lake Wakatipu, or Whakatipu. The most important part of the legend is that they got married and lived happily ever after. The end. Alright, we don't know if the others are coming in or not, but we're going to enter into the lake. It is actually a glacial-fed lake, so if you looked on Mount Earnslaw back there, that's one of the many glaciers that feed here into Lake Whakatipu. On average, it sits between 8 and 12 degrees Celsius. Here we go. Woo! How's the water, guys? Refreshing. All right, I'm trying out the wetsuit. I haven't used it all summer, so I still can't feel the water. Hey, it's good. Woo. Not a bad way to end the day. Patagonia in Arrowtown. Once again.
Dulce de leche and coconut stracciatella. After several delays due to the flooding in Auckland, we awaited the arrival of our friends from the USA to come and join in on some of the adventures. We started with one of our favorite restaurants in town.
So I'm gonna say this, guys. Trust the walk. Is it worth doing? Yeah. Was I right, Miranda? So we've just been down to the Ferg Bakery, and Ferg is probably most well known for its burgers, but in our opinion, the best things they actually do are the gelato and the bakery. Yeah, the pies are absolutely amazing. This one is a lamb kumara and horapito pie, which is a spicy pepper plant found here, native to New Zealand.
I got a tomato pesto mini focaccia and a chocolate almond croissant, which is one of my favorites.
Alrighty, we are here with Sam and Ven, and we're about to do the cycle the wineries through the Gibbston Valley here in central Otago. Behind us here, we've got the Karting Bridge, which is an old historic bridge built in 1880, connecting the towns of Arrowtown and Queenstown up to the gold mining villages of Cromwell and Bannockburn. So we're going to stop down at a few wineries on the way, starting off with the original Gibbston Valley Winery. Gibbston Valley Winery. Because it's summer, I'm doing what is called the Spectacular and Sparkling. Its tagline is the taste of summer. So as you can see here, I've got a brut. This would be like a sparkling. This is a rosé. They're all sparkling. Oh, except for the Riesling. So the rosé is there. Give it a try. So that was the Gibbston Valley Winery. It's actually the first winery in the central Otago region. When it was started up in 1980 by a man named Alan Brodie, wine growers around the world actually thought he was absolutely insane for starting up his vineyard here on the 44th parallel south. So we're basically in line with Patagonia right now, and the only way that he could actually start up the winery was by planting a particular strain of Pinot Noir that was slightly frost resistant. Also as well, he was able to do some techniques such as meshing to cover up the vineyards on those cold autumn mornings when they actually pick the grapes and stop the frost from settling on the vines. And the other thing he did on really cold mornings, he was able to get the local helicopter company to come in here and actually blow the rotors to blow the frost off the vineyards themselves. Now obviously that's quite an expensive way of keeping or maintaining your vineyards. So these days what they actually do is they get these giant fans that they have located inside the vineyards themselves, and they'll blow those on those really cold mornings to stop the frost from settling on the vineyards. So behind me here we have the Otago River, and this originates down at Lake Wakatipu or Whakatipu. This is the only outlet of Lake Wakatipu. It cracked open the gorge itself back about 18,000 years ago when there was a violent earthquake in the area, eventually eroding down to where it is right now.
Cycling the wineries in Gibbston Valley is one of our favorite activities in the region. In fact, we love it so much that this is the third time we have attempted the ride, and it's a great activity to showcase the area to friends and family when they come to visit us. We would like to thank Around the Basin, as they are always prepared to pick us up and our bikes when we've sampled too much of the amazing Central Otago Pinot Noir.
So the other guys have gone on to the Rockburn Winery. I'm going to go do the Peregrine Loop, which is a grade 5. It's advanced, so we'll see what happens. So I'm going to take this bit of a detour and see how it is. I've never done this part.
On the trail, I begin to survey sections of the Otago River below for potential future kayaking trips. I think I'll save that one for another year.
Oh my god, that was intense. Yeah, so grade 5, that's what it says there. It pretty much led all the way down to almost the bottom of the gorge. Really beautiful scenery, the best scenery on the whole ride in my opinion. However, it is not an easy ride. It is not very well maintained. The bushes hadn't been trimmed back from the trail. Climbing out of it, I'm still out of breath. It's absolutely insane. But was it worth it? For me it was. This is my 4th time down here, so I hadn't seen it before. It was worth doing, but would I recommend it to first timers? Probably not. So I'm rushing down to Kinross right now. Apparently Vince has injured himself, potentially broken his shoulder. So we're gonna see what's happened.
I don't think so.
How you feeling, man?
Oh, great, Jen.
All right.
Sam, this is how I get your boyfriend drunk, or your husband drunk. Your husband drunk.
What is that?
That's called a leader.
Oh yeah. Happy Waitangi Day. Alright guys, how is it? Yeah, good. The best way to celebrate our National Treaty Day known as Waitangi is a good barbecue at home with mates, and of course some board games. Given where we live, Lord of the Rings Risk is always a great option.
So we're in the central Otago town of Wanaka. The name Wanaka actually comes from the Maori word wananga, which means place of knowledge or place of learning. Originally the town started up as a gold mining town known as Pembroke, and nowadays it is a tourist hotspot. So it's sort of the alternative to Queenstown if you're looking for a beautiful outdoor alpine place for leisure and recreation.
Whilst in Wanaka, we also stop at our favorite cafe restaurant, Big Fig. We were in Wanaka on our way to tackle one of the most stunning hikes in the region, known as the Brewster Hut and Glacier, which we will feature as a standalone in our next episode.
Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed our content, please like and subscribe.
And we'd love if you could leave us a comment, letting us know what you've enjoyed or what you'd like to see more of.
And help us grow our channel. Become part of the Global Travel Stories family by sharing with friends, family, or anyone you think would enjoy our content. Thanks, guys.